Good evening, everyone. My name's Trevor Neale. I'm the CEO of Aesthetic Bureau, and I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. And in actual fact, I'd like to thank you all for coming along. It is your own personal time, and we do appreciate you coming in. One of the first things I'd like to do is just introduce you to some of the other staff in amongst you there. We've got Mabel Gove. Mabel is up the end there. Mabel's our marketing within the Aesthetic Bureau, our National Marketing Manager. Nicole actually asked me to not introduce her, so apparently I think most of you do know her anyway, so, but I will sort of go back on that a little bit and sort of go, look, Nicole's come back on board to Aesthetic Bureau. She's actually brought the Sinclair range with her and certainly has a bit of a passion there for it. My connection with Nicole goes way back. We started in the industry launching things like Thermage, as well as launching other devices like Alma lasers many, many years ago. I mean, Nick went out to obviously set up a passion for the industry, an RTO, as well as do a few others. And I'm sure most of you already know that. We have a few other visitors from Sinclair here as well. Tess went up the back. I feel like I'm almost doing that little lecture on an airline when we talk about at that there, and Kara Moncrieff is up the front. I was looking for where you were, so Kara's going to come up and have a bit of a chat with you a little bit later on. So, you know, Aesthetic Bureau, we did talk about a few things like Thermage and Alma lasers, and where we went through from that, by the way, is we went into actually manufacturing equipment. So as a device group, we actually now manufacture. So we're pretty well the only manufacturer in Australia that has TGA for manufacturing both IPL and LED devices. So, you know, in amongst all that, you know, the great passion that we can have is that we do get to play around with a lot of research and development, so R&D, but we also have a lot of compliancing that we need to go into. And I've got to say that we just had our annual audit because we have an international standards organisation in 13485, which we need to comply with, and we passed that last week, which, again, we're very happy about. So for me to go from being a manufacturer to suddenly start considering partnering with another distributor or another manufacturer as well to distribute their products was actually something that we hadn't expected to do. And I just sort of relate, there were two main reasons why, you know, the Sinclair and their V series really took me in. And one of those, look, I can say it is about the technology. It's great technology. And I could sort of say that was very similar for when I worked with Thermage. You know, at the time, that technology was good. With Alma lasers, at the time, that technology is good. So the V series, as an RF and multi-platform device, is a great system. So certainly that caught my eye. But that really wasn't the big element that pulled me into this particular product range. I mean, when we think about it, products like Thermage, you know, they were financed, there's no doubt about it, but it was a startup. These groups were something new coming on board, looking to becoming something bigger. Alma Lasers was a startup. I mean, I also did a little bit of work with Invasix, which became InMode, but again, these are all startup companies. The big difference and the big hook here is now we're working with Sinclair. Now, a lot of you are probably already aware of Sinclair, whether you may have used their threads or you know about them in those other sort of areas for threads and injectables and other elements. But Sinclair is an established worldwide industry or business. So their infrastructure is already set. You know, we are now working with a company that has the wherewithal to support all their suppliers around the world. So to me, that means this company is already big. It's not a company looking to sort of grow and get to that level. They are big. So ultimately, we are expecting these guys to really take off. And I actually made a comment there last night about, you know, when you go on to Cosmeticon 2030 or NSS 2030 or Aesthetics 2030, what you'll be doing is you'll be walking in, you'll see the platinum sponsor there will be something like Sinclair EBD. And you can then sort of go, you know what, I know you guys. You know, I was there when you were first launched. So this company is going to be very big. There's no doubt about it. So I'd like to welcome you, on behalf of Aesthetic Bureau and Sinclair, I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. to sort of be here for the birth of a new member of the aesthetic device family. I think it's a member that is going to be a big part of that aesthetic language, or aesthetic device language moving forward. And it's certainly going to be something that's here from now right up until the end of your aesthetic career. So they'll be around for years. To talk a little bit more about Sinclair and the devices they have, I'd like to introduce Kara Moncrieff. Kara's the international clinical trainer for Sinclair. She's come over from the US, from Las Vegas. We keep bringing that up. Everyone's excited about that. So I'll hand over to Kara.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Kara Moncrieff, and yes, I live in the States in Las Vegas. Grew up there. I know, super weird. But I am so happy to be here. It's my 4th time in Australia, so I obviously very much love your country, so I thank you for having me again. I am the clinical director for Sinclair in North America, and we were acquired by Sinclair, and I was with a company called Viora for 10 years. So I've been with the company for 10 years. So if you guys have any questions this evening after the presentations on any of the technology, I know them like the back of my hand, and I am happy to help with any questions that you guys may have. So just a very quick, this is going to be short, but we want to give you guys a company overview of who we are, who is Sinclair. And when we start talking about the technology, it all makes sense because you have an overview of what the physician's going to be speaking on when she comes on in just a moment on Zoom. So, okay, who we are. So Sinclair, we have a presence in over 90 countries, and it says 700 employees, but now we are close to 1,000. So we are a very large company. Have any of you guys gone to MCAS in Paris? Our booth, it was bigger than Allergan's, bigger than Mer's. I'm like, oh my gosh, we are a huge company now, which is super exciting because our events are bigger. We can be a bit more grandiose in that way. Also, education. They have an amazing, it's called Sinclair College, but an amazing touch and reach with their education. And that really stems from who Sinclair started out as. And what they started out as doing is their injectables and their threads. So there's a large line of injectables, Molly, Alance, Laluma, you guys may have already heard about some of these, and additionally Silhouette Soft, which is their threads. Now, we're going to be talking about tonight the energy-based device side of Sinclair. And in specific, we are going to be talking about the V series. So just a very quick snapshot of what Sinclair offers when it comes to the EBD division. We are very large. We have a lot of lasers, we have cryolipolysis, we have platform systems, IPLs, radiofrequency, so on and so forth. But what we are going to focus on tonight is the V series, V10, V20, and V30. So just a quick breakdown of what these are. The V10 houses all radiofrequency capabilities. The V20 houses all radiofrequency capabilities plus IPL. And then the V30 houses all RF, IPL, plus any laser capabilities. Why a platform system? Why did Viora decide to do this 8 years ago? We are an Israeli-based company, so really good technology. And we knew that we could build amazing technology on a platform system to be able to grow with our businesses. And that was the #1 thing for us. We know that when you're just starting out maybe in the business, these devices are expensive and it's hard and you need to make revenue from them. So we thought about it and we wanted to come at it in that approach, right? That when you acquire a technology, it is never going to be obsolete. We are always going to be able to grow with you because any technology that we develop will just plug into your system. So instead of having to buy a $100,000 device, that I'm talking US money, so I don't know if it's the same, it is a third or a fourth or a 1/5 of a cost to be able to acquire amazing technology that plugs into your device. So again, it's never going to be obsolete. Additionally, you can grow at your own pace. If you don't need everything, you don't need a laser and a RF with vacuum for cellulite and a skin tightening and a fractionated, maybe you already have some of these technologies, it's okay. You're never gonna be punished because of that. You can acquire maybe 1 or 2 technologies, and as you start to generate that revenue and you start to see that ROI, now you can add on additional technology and generate additional ROI. So we're always growing at really your pace. And the biggest thing too, really how we looked at it as a business is we, just like you guys, want to keep your patients for life, right? You don't want, I don't know if you guys have Groupon, but you don't want like Groupon, the coupon type company, patients coming in because it's what, a hair removal package and you're never going to see them again. You want the patients that stay with you through life. They're going to have very different issues in their 30s than they are in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s, right? So they're growing with you. But additionally, they're bringing now their daughter in and their daughter's coworker. So we want to make sure that us as a company are doing the same thing with our practices. We're growing with you and we're staying with you for years to come. And again, that's what's so magical about a platform system. These are some of the technologies that we're going to be covering tonight. ST, skin tightening, VFR, which is skin resurfacing, and coagulation, so it does tightening and resurfacing at the same time. Cellulite, body contouring, dramatic skin tightening on the body. That's RF and vacuum based. We won't be talking about it tonight, but if you guys have any questions later on, I can discuss the IPL and laser with you guys a little bit more. So I'm going to wrap it up because I probably went over time. I'm so sorry. But I think the biggest thing also when you're thinking about a platform system is, do you have all the tools in your toolbox, right? When your patient comes in, we know that neurotoxin can't do it all. We know filler cannot do it all. So when they're coming in with textural issues or pigment issues, do you have to turn them away? Hopefully not, right? Hopefully you have that solution and all the tools in your toolbox to make sure that that patient is staying with you and not having to go down the road to get these additional treatments that they're looking for. Again, that's what's beautiful about a platform system, all the treatment options. You're going to hear a little bit about our proprietary technology. So Viora holds patents, and they're really good patents. So you'll hear more about that and our proprietary nature. So that's it for me now. I'll be back up later on, though. Thank you.
So as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that drew me to this was the actual equipment. There's actually 3 things that pull me right in. One of those, obviously, and I think Kara's obviously went through it, is the versatility of the unit. There's so much you can do with it. You could either get it to just fill the simple gaps within your clinic, or you can have it as a complete device platform. The second and third thing that I really liked about the technology was the vacuum element of it. You know, when we start talking about using the vacuum with the radio frequency, we're talking about sucking that tissue in. It's basically pinching it in. And if we are looking at the shortest path between 2 electrodes with RF as it's going through the least path of resistance, we are now not getting the energy passing on the surface as we would with anything just contacting the surface. We're now starting to get into that really subcutaneous layers, into that adipose layer. And we are still starting to pull up things like selective fiber septi heating. Now, if we can get to those domains, we can start working on submental contraction and getting that lifting in here. We can get that jowl retraction. We can go up these sides and pull in those sides. You know, that starts to bring in the element of facial contouring, and we can put it on the body with our bigger probes with it. You can have a bit of a look at later, where it actually can do body contouring with that as well. So we can get significant reduction with those and great thermal trauma. The other part of the vacuum was that not only are we having that suction onto those electrodes to make good contact, it's that whole gate theory. You know, that distraction for the client basically is making it so that with the VFR, for example, that's coming on, it sucks on it, it goes blah, blah, blah. And what you're doing is you're listening to that, and by the time you've sort of realised it's happening, you've had the treatment. And the same thing goes with the tummy. When we start getting the bigger V form, as that moves around, that suction pulls in, it pinches in there, and you just don't realise the heating process is going on. So it's a very comfortable treatment. So they're the things that really pulled me into it, and that vacuum is quite significant. To really talk a little bit more about the clinical aspects of the Viora system, I need to introduce you to, and I'll bring this up, Dr. Ines Verner. Now, I've got this in writing here to read through just to give you a bit of an understanding of Dr. Verner. To run through, it says, Dr. Ines Verner is an internationally renowned dermatologist with over 20 years of experience in cosmetic dermatology. She followed a postdoctoral fellowship in dermatology at Yale University and has her own private clinic in Tel Aviv and is an entrepreneur and founder of 2 medical device startups. She is on the scientific committee of multiple international cosmetic dermatology congresses, on the editorial board of several medical journals, is professor at the University of Rome, and served as president of the Israel Society of Dermatologic Surgery and president of the European Society of Cosmetic and Aesthetic Dermatology. So I'd just like to welcome in Dr. Ines Verner. Welcome.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much for the introduction. Do you hear me well? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I will actually talk about the RF and also about the V30, and I'm really honored to be with you today. So let's start. And regards from Jerusalem, actually in Jerusalem right now. So what is interesting, and that's from the clinical side, is that our clinics, and I've been in the aesthetic field more than 20 years, have changed a lot. And lately, we see that there is a lot of need and a lot of patients are coming and asking for energy-based devices. So there is really like a huge need, and really patient, they ask, what do you have, what can you do, which technology do you have? They also all understand, start to understand technology. They know about radiofrequency, they know it's good, and so they are very, very interested. Now, what was said before is that the V series is a very, very good choice for you, because the platform actually covers most of our needs in the clinic. Because I'm a dermatologist, but my clinic is an aesthetic clinic, and a lot of patients, they will come with some sagging, with some wrinkles. They will come with some spots, sunspots, or vascular lesions, and actually this platform can answer all or most of their concerns, most of the patient's concerns. And also there are not so many consumables. For most of the parts of the technology, you don't have consumables. So this is a very, very good thing for the clinic, because once you start to have to count all your pulses and consumables, the costs for us also are higher. And we will start with the fractional RF. So those who know me know that I really love fractional RF, and the VFR is very, very good fractional RF technologies. Actually, I know them all, and I really like this one, and I will tell you why. It has the SVC technology, and I will describe and talk about it in a minute. And it has a lot of control for you in the energy and in the pulse duration. And so in this way, we can actually control both the depth, but also the tissue effect that we would like to achieve, which is very, very important for us as doctors to have the right tissue effect, because also every indication is different, every patient is different, and also their desires are different. So there is a different interest in each patient. So in the past, I think that most of and I really remember the first fractional RF in the clinic. I remember putting it on the one of the first patients, and patients would jump. They would just jump because it was so painful. But now, actually, there is no pain with the VFR. Actually, there is no pain. I actually did it on myself a few days ago, and it's just really, really, you feel a little bit of, a pulse, but it's not painful. Also, it doesn't burn. So there is a lot of control on depth of penetration. And as we said, we really can control the biological response in the tissue. So what is SVC? So it's talking about switching. So we can, there is switching. Not all the electrodes are giving energy in the same time, which is very good, because then there is no pain. Because if there is, if they all give in the same time, there may be painful. The second thing is vacuum. So vacuum is very nice because it just leads to that there is a very, very good contact with the skin. So you feel it, and it's also very pleasant. It gives like a very pleasant feeling, but also the contact with the RF is good. And that's very, very important, because then you don't get any hot spots and you don't risk any burns. Also, there is cooling. So cooling is another important feature, because then the epidermis is cooled, and also you don't risk having any burn. So it's very, very safe. It's an add-on for safety. So this was regarding the switching. So not everything together, but also the switching helps us to get the right depth. So if the electrodes are close one to another, the energy will be more shallow. If they are a little bit further apart, the depth will go to medium, so it will be a little bit deeper. And if they are far apart, like we can go actually much deeper into the depth. And so we can control the depth of our treatment. And this is how the screen looks. So you can actually choose the program from shallow to medium to depth, and in that way actually treat or the superficial dermis, the mid dermis, or the deep dermis. So you actually, or the deeper parts of the dermis, and so actually we control that. Also, you have control over the energy, and also we actually, just a minute, we also control the pulse duration. So here, actually, this is the vacuum. The vacuum is really, really nice, as it gives you the safer treatment because of the contact, and you don't risk any epidermal injury. And it's also a very comfortable sensation, and also it takes away the further when the pulse itself is coming. So then it actually takes it away. The cooling part is also very actually interesting, because not all actually most fractional RF devices don't have cooling, and also they don't have the vacuum, and also they don't have the switching. So really this technology is very, very interesting, because the cooling is also another advantage to actually protect the epidermis. So the superficial layers of the skin are protected, because cooling will naturally cool the upper parts, and we want the heat to go into the dermis. So in this sense, we will get some heating of the dermis, and thus new collagen production and rejuvenation at the level where we actually need it. So also there is the smart heat, which is also a very, very nice feature of this technology. So it will actually heat with these two lateral electrodes. It will heat the tissue a little bit bipolarly before actually giving the fractional radio frequency pulses. And so in this way, the electrical resistance is reduced. And so the pulses are actually getting into the dermis much better, because this was also one of the problems when we started with the fractional RF, that actually there was a lot of impedance, a lot of resistance to the pulse, to the RF pulse. So this actually controls this resistance in the tissue. And in this way, we're actually getting the energy inside. We don't need high energy, so the energies that we use can be lower. And in this sense, we are actually also much safer when we are treating. Now, regarding the biological response, what is really, really important for us as doctors is to get the right biological response. And of course, we know that if we heat the tissue to 100 degrees, we will actually cook the tissue. There will be evaporation. And that's something that we may want to have until a certain level in the skin. If we heat to 60, 70 degrees, we will see coagulation. Now, coagulation is also very, very important because coagulation is the part that induces skin tightening and it induces new collagen production. So these are the two things that we would like to have when we are coagulating. And I will show you in the pathologies how you can get this coagulative effect, how we get that. And also, of course, we know that at lower temperatures, when we are between 40 and 50, we can actually induce some new collagen production, some collagen remodeling, and actually some skin rejuvenation. So here, this is when we have on the screen, you will have this icon there, and there you can actually control the pulse duration. So that's also another very, very nice feature of this technology. So if this pulse duration is small, like very short pulse, 10 milliseconds, what we will get is more ablation because the energy will be concentrated in this very short pulse. When we take a longer pulse, for instance, if we choose for 100, very, very long, quite a long pulse duration, we will mainly see coagulation. So then we will have a kind of a non-ablative tissue effect, which is very nice because then you can just induce new collagen production without actually having or treating the epidermis. So this is something that you can choose. If you want to treat the epidermis and get more ablation to actually get more of a superficial ablative result, or you want to get more of a coagulative result. For most of our patients, we will need a combination. Most patients need a little bit of ablation to get the surface a little bit smoother, to get the away with the stratum corneum, to really get the skin to be a little bit more even, more smooth, but also to get some tissue tightening and some new collagen production. So I think for most patients, we will be combining ablation and coagulation together. So here, this is the screen. You have here is the area where you actually control the pulse duration, and it's really, really nice. So a little bit more, and also in the same patient, in some area you would like to have more ablation, in another area on the skin you would like to have more coagulation. So you can choose actually what you would like to have. Also here you control the energy, and so that will be very, very, so we control both the depth, the pulse duration, the tissue effect, and also the energy intensity that we would like to use. And now, this is how patients actually look immediately after and a few days after. So it takes a few days to heal, to recover, but really patients don't need to stay at home, so there is naturally no downtime. So as we said, the treatment is not painful, so we don't put EMLA. And I was saying that, and also always like to stress that really the anesthesia is not needed, also because it's not painful, but also the pulse, what the patients feel, I mean, the pain that they feel is a very good, good marker of how what would be your intensity, your energy that you use on that specific patient because it differs from patient to patient. And so their pain level is a very, very good indication for how intense your treatment should be. Because if it's very, very painful, of course, you go lower. And if they don't feel anything, you have to go higher, because they have to feel something, but also not too much. And then you are actually at the right energy level. So after one day, there is some redness, and then it actually goes down. Then there may be a little scabs for a day or two. And actually, after 7 days, it's completely healed. But patients naturally can put some makeup. And also remember that if you do a longer pulse duration and more of a coagulative effect and less of an ablative effect, this will actually be less pronounced. And then if patients, for instance, have events, then you can choose for these other parameters when we treat the patient. So what are the indications? So for me, and this is something, I actually think that nearly everybody can have a little bit of fractional RF treatment. Naturally, rejuvenation. So a lot of people come and they ask to improve their texture and tone. They want their skin to look brighter. Also younger patients. So now there is a huge trend of this prejuvenation, these younger patients who are coming in, and sometimes they don't want injectables, and they don't want, botulinum toxin fillers. They just want to look a little bit fresher, a little bit better. That would be a great choice for them. Scars, acne scars. Acne scars is a fantastic indication for this fractional RF, because personally I like to treat acne scars with fractional RF first, and then if needed to add other technologies. So that would be my first choice nowadays for acne scars. Pigmented lesions. Another really great indication is PIH. PIH is a very problematic indication, but when you combine it, for instance, with a Kligman preparation and you use the fractional RF, the VFR, it will be also it will lead to very nice improvement of this very problematic issue. Texture and tone. Texture is very nice because then you should use the more ablative settings and get a really, really nice texture and smoother skin. The schedule of the treatment. So what you have to understand when you do the VFR is that actually the skin needs time to recover and to build the new collagen. So it's kind of, it works like biostimulation. So we need the interval between the treatments for the skin to actually build itself up. And I think that for the younger patients, 3 sessions are good. The older patients may need 5, 6 sessions. So it's somewhere between 3 to 6 sessions once a month. Mostly I'd like to schedule my patients once a month, every 4 weeks would be a very, very good schedule for the patient. The treatment is short, relatively short. And so it's really, really nice. After that, they can do maintenance, or they come. What I also recommend my patients, I recommend them to come after the summer. And in Australia, it's just as sunny as here. So in the summer, we kind of age more. So they come after the summer in September, October, and then we will do some 1 or 2 or 3 treatments just again. So these are some studies showing results, very, very nice results of this technology. So this is after 1 treatment. And even after 1 treatment, you can see that there is a lot of improvement in the texture. And a lot of times you can also see some lifting of the skin, some tightening of the tissue. And that's actually very, very nice. these are pathologies showing the same, that there is actually some coagulation. You can see some coagulation in the dermis. And that's also very, very important to see. And we know that after coagulation, there will be new collagen production in the same area. And also there are studies you may have seen that what we see when we are treating skin fractionally is that we see the coagulation in the area of the pin, because this will be under the pin area. There you will see the coagulation, but the tissue effect will be more widespread. So we see after 3 months, 4 months, that there is actually an overall tissue effect of new collagen production. And that's also very, very important, because we treat fractionally, but actually the tissue effect is overall. Here again, you see this coagulation, and after that, we will also see the healing process, and of course the new collagen production, which takes time, and therefore we actually need this follow-up period and the time to give to our patients. Also, another point is that many times patients come after 1 treatment or 2 treatments, and the effect is not so pronounced, but if they come even half a year later, we will see much more tightening, much more pronounced tissue effect. And I've seen some patients even 1 year after, 1 year later, and you will see more tightening, more tissue effect. And that's actually really nice. You just have to look at the pictures, because sometimes they don't really see it, and just show it to them. This was a study that was performed in Thailand, and they showed that 74% of the patients were very satisfied. Actually, I think that most of our patients, so it's much higher, in my opinion, patient satisfaction is much, much higher than that, because there is no way the patients will not see any effect, because we are actually destroying some parts of their skin and getting them to rejuvenate. So there is always some effect, and also patient satisfaction is actually quite good. I think also it's very, very important to align their expectations to what we can offer. So they have to understand that they're not going to have a facelift. They have to understand what exactly can be the effect of the RF. And then, of course, they will be satisfied just if they understand, see the pictures, and know what to expect and what will be the exact improvement. So here are some other pathologies showing the efficacy of this RF, and of course we know that RF can be, and this RF specifically is very effective also, because we have, and I haven't discussed this yet with you, but we also have a different possibilities to go deeper or less deep, as we showed you before. And here, when we look at the deeper settings, we can actually go to around 500 microns. So 500 microns in the face will be actually you're actually bypassing the mid-dermis. So when you are bypassing the mid-dermis and actually are going already to the deeper, so you're around mid-dermis there, we are actually having the possibility to really induce very, very nice tightening and rejuvenation. So with the medium, we go less, 250, and with the shallow, you're at 200 microns, the total thermal effect. But that's actually the very important effect, because already you will get some stimulation at this level. And for coagulation, you also get kind of a deep effect, which is very, very nice to be able to do that, because then we actually really can see this tissue tightening that we will all like to see in our patients. Because if we're only very, very superficial, we will not see enough effect. If we're only deep, we will not see the superficial effect. So in my opinion also, and that's another point that I like always to stress out, we really need to treat all levels. Surely of the dermis, we want to treat all the levels, and in this way we will actually get a much more pronounced tissue tightening effect. So the advantages, as we said, we talked about switching, vacuum, and cooling. And so this is very, very nice. We talked about the depth of penetration that we are able with this technology to offer actually a deep going penetration into the dermis, which is very, very important. So there is a control because we have the control of the pulse duration. We can control the biological response. So that's very, very important, a short pulse or a long pulse, and also the depth as we talked. Actually, there is nearly no downtime. I don't know if we call it downtime, a little bit of redness on the skin. It's nothing for most females. It's nothing. And no complications. Actually, I have to say, there are no complications with fractional RF. I've never seen one. Of course, some patients, what you can have is that some patients, very rare patients, will react a little bit more. They will be like extra red. So what I do in my clinic, I always give every patient goes out, I give a combination of a low steroid and an antibiotic in a cream that we have available in Israel. And so they don't even buy it. I just give them the prescription before. So if they are very red or they have some itching or burning after, which is very rare, they can buy it and use it. So in this way, I actually prevent this problem. Another point is that radiofrequency, and you must know it is colorblind. So we can use it in all skin types. And so that's very, very important. And we have here in Israel also very, very different skin types. And I think in Australia as well. So that's very, very good because you can really also treat easily without risk the darker skin types. And also it's suitable for other areas of the body. So you can treat also the neck and the chest and the arms. And that's very, very nice. Abdomen, for instance, for Striae is very, very nice. Also breast, Striae, it works very, very well. And neck. And so these are areas that we can actually easily treat and improve. As we said, multiple application, very good ROI for the clinic, and also different protocols that we can actually use to get improvement, for instance, for the periorbital area, and also the neck needs a little bit of a different attention. Another point that also patients need to know is naturally that all these areas that are off the face are actually reacting slower. So they need to know they need more treatments, maybe even lower energies, because just to protect the area. But yes, the effect is there. So we actually talked about this, that it can be ablative, it can be non-ablative, and a combination. For me, I think that most of our patients will need a combination of a little bit of ablative and non-ablative. And also, of course, this system has a very good control. It's not painful at all, which is amazing, because as you know, other systems are painful. And the tissue effect is here very, very good. We talked about this. So that's very, very important. Also, we have this control of depth of penetration, of the biological response, and naturally no complications. So here you can see some examples of clinical results. So here, this is a scar, and also for acne scars. Actually, for me, acne scars here, this is after 3 VFR treatments. Personally, I think that acne scars need more treatments. no patient will start treatment without actually going to 5 treatments, in my opinion, at least 5, because acne scars react slow and it's a difficult problem. And sometimes we combine it with subcision. Sometimes we even combine it with chemical peels because it's really, really like a tough problem. But it is my first go treatment, the VFR. Here also some texture and improvement of skin aging, and that will actually also be very, very nice. So laxity, small wrinkles, textural improvement, tone improvement. This is a Visia picture showing that the RF actually attacks the melanin, and so therefore you have more UV spots. So it's actually breakage of the melanin that we can actually see here. And here is a patient with PIH. So PIH for me is, my first go treatment with PIH is a combination of very low energy fractional RF, just very low, together with Kligman. I don't know if the Kligman preparation is allowed in Australia, but in Israel we are allowed to give hydroquinone to our patients. So it will be with hydroquinone for me. Here we can see Striae and also laxity of the skin. So here also, this is a very, very nice indication for fractional RF. Striae are a great indication. We treat, and there is a lot of need for that. And also with Striae, we see a lot of younger patients who are coming, and they have Striae stretch marks. And so we can treat them. And then, yes, 6 times would be good to treat them 6 times, once a month. And then I don't do, I really do the fractional RF, and it's very, very nice for this indication. Now, okay, the V-form. The V-form is actually a body contouring technology. So go now over to another field, the body. Body is a huge field that's coming up and going to grow. And patients also, what I find that we have been very, very slow. I don't know how it is in Australia, how many patients are asking for the body, but in Israel, not so many, but now it's really starting to come up. So we've been late, but patients are coming and asking for it because they all want to have this BBL and they want to have a really, really smooth, nice body. So here we have the body applicator. So we have the larger applicator, the BC large, which is very good for large areas, but also for quite slim patients to get a faster treatment. It's also very, very nice. And it's good for the abdomen, for the thighs, for the buttocks. The medium is also for the same areas for smaller people. And the smaller one is good for sensitive areas, for the inner thighs, for the underarms, and areas like that. Now, what is important here, and that's something also very, very interesting about this technology, is the possibility to actually choose the frequency. And as we said, lower RF frequencies will go deeper, and higher RF frequencies will be higher in the tissue. And so in this way, we can treat both the superficial subcutaneous layer together with the deep. So you can choose either to treat deep, to treat mid-depth, to treat more superficial, or actually to treat them all together. And you can treat all the layers together as well. Personally, and this is something that I told you already before, I think we need to treat all over to get the good tightening, because we actually want to get new collagen formation, both in the superficial fat layer and also go a little bit deeper. This is here you can see the superficial fascia. So this is the area, the main area where we want to be for tightening. But also the whole superficial subcutaneous layer has a lot of septa, a lot of connective tissue, and around 30% of our fat tissue is connective tissue. So we have to actually induce that heating there, and in this way actually lead to improvement of cellulite and also tighten the tissue, because a lot of patients, even if they don't have cellulite, they have some skin sagging. So that's very, very interesting. So here about that. Also, the vacuum. Actually, I have to say, the vacuum question is very, very nice because patients really love it. This is, it's also very, very pleasant. It also is more efficacious because you can actually enhance the lymphatic drainage, and also you get a deeper and better RF penetration into the tissue. It stimulates the metabolism, increases blood flow. But also, I think a main thing is that patients love it. And there are, of course, studies showing that vacuum can actually induce new collagen production by the fibroblasts. And the indications will be cellulite naturally, circumference reduction, tightening. These are actually the main indications. And the abdomen, patients ask for the abdomen, they ask for the thighs, they ask for the upper parts, legs above their knees. These can be areas that patients will ask for. Arms is a huge, huge, huge need in the clinic. So here you want to have more sessions. So for the body, we need, in my opinion, 5, 6. 3 will be like really fast for younger patients. The older ones, the patients that need more tightening, of course, will need more sessions. You can do them once a week. And treatment is around 20 minutes. I personally like to do it longer. So for me, it will be 30 minutes for the patients. And also because it's such a pleasant treatment and to give them some extra value. And so for the patients, and also, of course, to get a little bit of more pronounced tissue effect, because what we are doing, we're actually heating the tissue. So if we induce more heat, we will have a little bit more of a tissue effect. So this is regarding the fibrosepta and actually cellulite. We know that cellulite is a problem of women, and that women have a different subcutaneous fat tissue than men. So you know that the septa, they go parallel in women, whereas they are crisscross in men. And so men just have this much, much better support. And so we women, we also, this is a problem of us, but we have the technologies to save. So we can use this multi-core technology, and in this way, actually, as we said, reach the hypodermis, reach the area where we have the septa, and induce their heating and, of course, new collagen production. And it does, in this way, also a very, very nice tightening effect. And also what you see is that there is a circumference reduction there, also because of the tightening, and most probably also some effect on the fat cells, maybe some apoptosis, but mostly there is a tightening of the connective tissue there. And I think this will be the main effect on the tissue. So here you can see the legs. This is a very, very nice result for cellulite. So, and this is a very, very common patient, how this woman here, this is how patients come. And I think this is a very nice, very good result, but also a result we can get and offer our patients. So most of our patients naturally respond, and it's good. And this also, again, it's really, really important to align the expectations. So patients need to know what they get. So they know that they will have a little bit of tightening, they can have a little bit of circumference reduction, but of course they can't, this is a very, very important point, especially for the body. So the tissue will look better, and you can get some circumference reduction. This is for the abdomen. The medium will be 2.78 centimeters. And So actually a very, very nice tissue, an interesting tissue effect. Now, this was again regarding the frequency, what I told you. So we have actually two parameters that actually tell us the depth of the treatment. So here we can see that if the frequency of the RF is lower, like if we choose 0.8, then we go deeper. And if the frequency is higher, we go less deep. So that's a parameter that actually influences the depth of the treatment. And you can see it here. The heating with the mode 1 goes deep, and that will be the lower frequency. And when you go to mode 3 and you want to treat more superficially, so this will be for the thinner patients where you want to tighten the skin more superficially. Mode 1 will be for the fuller patients where you feel that the layer of the fat is thicker, because you go there up to 2.5 centimeters. So that's quite deep also so you can actually treat also the fuller patients, because if you actually get to 2.5 centimeters, that's quite a lot. You actually need to go to around the mid fat layer. So that will be where you want to get your energy, the upper and up to the mid. So that will be very, very good, even for thicker fat layers. So this is a result before and after for tightening. And here you can see that the heating is homogeneous. This is also very, very important for the tissue, so that there is a good actually heating of the area under your handpiece. And so you can see here that you get to 43 degrees, and this is very good, because 43, as we said, regarding the tissue effect, we can have very nice stimulation of collagen production, and also improving the metabolism and this kind of tissue effect. So the advantages are that it's actually a very, very good body contouring solution, mainly for tightening and for cellulite and some circumference reduction. So here again, the indications, as we said, are actually what we said, tightening and cellulite, circumference reduction. These are the main indications for body contouring. And actually, the side effect chance is very, very, very low. You really have to have a very bad technician for that. Very good homogeneous heating, faster heating, and larger areas. As we said, the handpiece is quite large, so you can treat large areas very, very easily and quite fast. And also very fast thermal effect to treat and to be effective. And here, actually, cellulite is very, very common. This is a problem that patients will come in often. And so, yeah, we can offer quite a nice results, also circumference reduction and tightening. And yeah, so if I don't know if you have any questions. So in conclusion, I think that that's a very, very great platform for the clinic. And of course, we didn't talk about the other technologies that are there. You will have that. But I'm personally really happy with it. And so if you have some questions, I'll be happy to answer.
So do we have any questions for Dr. Verner? Very thorough. There you go. Very thorough. Thank you very much. Well done. Oh.
Could you just explain a little bit more clearly about the cooling and heating with the fractional RF?
Mm-hmm. So the cooling is very superficial. You're right, because it's actually a contradiction. Cooling and heating is a contradiction. So the idea is that the heating will go deep into the dermis. And if you don't cool, then some parts of the heat will stay in the upper parts of the epidermis, where we actually want to protect. because we would like the epidermal effect to be quite minimal, so that you don't get a burn, but also that it's comfortable for the patient. Because if you only heat, so two points actually, for the heat to go deeper, because the RF actually can enter deeper. When you cool, less of the energy will be in the upper parts in the epidermis. It will go to the dermis. So that's one point. And the second point will be that it's very pleasant. So patients don't feel any heat, and also protection not to have a burn. So actually 3 points. Deeper RF penetration, because you saw we can get to around 500 microns. It's actually quite good, because, for instance, it's a good level of penetration of the heat. So also the pain sensation, and also the protection of not to get any epidermal burn. So yes, you get an epidermal effect of ablation, but not more than that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we all understand the rationale for why you might want to do that, but just couldn't really quite understand how it was achieved.
Yeah, also the depth. So a lot of the energy will go deeper and not get stuck in the upper parts.
Okay. Also to the, when you were talking about going deeper with the electrodes or whatever being further apart, yet you're still getting the same dot coverage on the surface. So how did that occur?
Yeah, you're right. That the dot coverage is still there. You go deep, so yes. What? Actually, I don't know. You're right. I don't know the answer. How I would suppose.
Okay, we've got someone here who can answer it. Apparently,
that most of the energy will be in the lateral electrodes, and some parts of the energies will go. Actually, I will need to ask that the physicist. I'm sorry.
Kara is apparently here, so Kara
I have
will
to
answer.
ask that. But
Okay.
my feeling is that because they don't fire all together, that yeah. Let me ask that. It's a good question, because yes, you're right. You have the separation, and then it goes deeper, but then you also have the tissue effect in the other areas. Yes. Let me ask it.
Dr. Verner,
I don't have a physicist here, but yeah.
so Kara has indicated she's sort of very familiar with that one, and
Yeah,
but we'll
maybe.
certainly love to get the information and we can forward that on as well. Any other questions for Dr. Verner at all before she signs off? Well, Dr. Verner, thank you very much. As I said, you've been very comprehensive with all that, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Enjoy.
So a little bit of, we've got these events happening, and obviously we always consider there may be a bit of a hiccup going on. I will say that it was just in transport. We were meant to have a system here for you to have a bit of a look at. We do have a few accessories. We still have a presentation to go, but we're about to have about a 10-minute break or so, just so that you get all just have a bit of a chat if you need, and we'll come back to it after that. So just finishing off, we've got a few more just to go through. As I indicated, actually one of the favourites of the device for me is the fractional side of things. And I did mention earlier we worked with Nicole, myself, brought Thermage into Australia many years ago. And at the time, I sort of like to relate that not only did we have Thermage, obviously Fraxel was around at the time, and when we were doing training for Fraxel, for Thermage, I remember we used to sort of make comments about, some people see a subtle improvement, some see a good, some see a dramatic change, but a small percentage of people won't see much at all. So that was all dependent on obviously their ability to produce collagen. The second thing that we used to indicate with it, look, this is a 6-month treatment protocol. I mean, once you started getting wound healing response, it's up to 4 weeks when you're getting maximum collagen production. It's infant collagen, and it takes up to 6 months to fully mature. So it's a subtle improvement when it starts, and it's gradual. When I look at fractional devices, and the fact that we were up against Fraxel at the time, what we found with that, with Fraxel, you get a lot of morbidity associated with it, so it'd take a couple of days, even a week, but the wow factor associated that was quite significant. So when I look at, even if I was looking at manufacturing an RF device, the option is that obviously RF needling is very cheap, very easy to manufacture, but when we start getting into non-invasive volumetric tissue, ablation of tissue, it then becomes a lot harder. And quite frankly, when I look at the needling style of things, to me it's very similar to what we did with Thermage in the fact that we got tissue separation, so we're getting a little bit of neocollagenesis associated with that rebonding, but that thermal trauma is going to take time for it to come. So the issue of that wow factor for the client, considering that we're looking at them wanting and going, oh my God, I love it, I got a lot of value out of that treatment, we don't sort of see it there so much. Whereas if we're able to get that volumetric ablation with that thermal, even a little bit of necrosis and that thermal trauma around it, we can certainly get a bigger wow factor for those clients more instantaneously, which then gives them greater feeling of value for the treatments. The great thing about the V series is that we can start to combine that with other elements such as the V form that's we talked a little bit about, and the VST. Just going to get Kara to come back up and do a little bit more of a presentation on a few of the other aspects and the combination treatments associated with the V series. So she'll be here to be able to answer any questions as you're going through as well. So Kara.
Thank you. One of my favorite topics to speak on is combination. You guys are probably doing a lot of it, right? That's the trend in the US, and I'm sure it's the trend all around the world. So one of my favorite talks. So we'll go into it, and then again, any questions that you guys may have, like yours, I haven't forgotten about you, I'm here to answer that. So I'm not quite working, sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay, so what happens when we age? It's not just wrinkles, right? A lot of things happen. We have bone loss, we have muscle loss, we have really good fat in our face, and then we start to lose it in the upper face, and we start to gather it here, and we end up with jowls and submental issues, textural issues, pigment issues, vascular issues. There's so much that goes into aging. So because we know there's so much, if it was just fine lines and wrinkles, great. I'm gonna start neurotoxin when I'm 20 and I'm good, but that's not the case. So understanding, and I love when my practices, or our practices, teach this to the customers as well, because when customers really understand what's going on with their skin and they understand the layers, then they really have this concept of, wow, okay, I understand that it's a journey with you. It's not just a 3 treatments and I'm done. It's not. It's always going to be a journey with your patient. And if your patients could be coming into you monthly, amazing. You want to see them as much as possible. If not monthly, at least seasonally, right? They need to be doing something. And you want to be able to see them more, of course. I just did a webinar on this topic. I loved it. I learned so much as I researched. But we fall into 3 categories, right? Or we can be a combination of 2, which is super unfortunate. But it's sinker, sagger, wrinkler. Sinking, fat loss, right? You don't see a lot of loose, lax skin. You don't see deep lines typically, but there's definitely a sallow, that sunken appearance to the face. Sagger, me, my whole family, unfortunately. We do have jowls, right? We have that heavy face. Instead of that beautiful V, we have the inverted V, and that's really going to be your challenge, is focusing on that submental area and the jowls, also the really heavy hooded lids, so on and so forth, because everything starts to sag, right? And then wrinkler, I think that's self-explanatory, right? It's just those really deep lines that are very, very hard to treat. So I love this slide because it shows not everybody is going to be the same when they come in, right? It's not going to be just a wrinkler in front of you. It's not going to be just a sagger in front of you. Do you have those tools to treat and customize any patient that comes in? Okay, so we learned about these, right? So now I'm going to break down the different layers of our skin and our issues. So this is probably a very common patient that comes into you, right? It's maybe someone in their 60s or 70s, they've never done anything to their skin, and now they're like, oh my gosh, listen, I don't like it, but it's probably too late for me. No, it's not too late. I don't want to have surgery. No problem. You don't have to. They don't understand this concept, right? So what are we seeing here? We're seeing laxity in hooded lids. We're seeing fine lines and wrinkles. We're seeing solar lentigo, textural issues, jowls, and dull and dry skin. So there's a lot going on. So again, to make them really happy, what they're looking for is taking 10 years off the face, but taking 10 years off the face usually quickly. How do we do this? How do we address that? And it's addressing everything as a whole, right? Synergistically. It's treating all layers of the skin, because guess what? Every layer of the skin has different cells that also have different issues. So we have here, sorry, my PowerPoint clicker is not working all that well. There we go. Okay, so the skin. Where are these issues originating? Our dull skin, the epidermis, right? We have 15 to 30 dead skin layers, a lot. But if we can remove a few of those layers, this is when it's, you look really refreshed, right? You look healthy, the skin just looks better. So we want to make sure to target that dull skin. Textural issues. It's so rare that someone's going to have fine lines and wrinkles without textural problems, right? So they just go hand in hand. And where are they originating? They're superficial, right? Sometimes deep though, unfortunately. Solar lentigo. Where are our melanocytes in the skin? They're superficial. They're at the bottom of the epidermis for a reason, to protect the deeper dermis, our collagen, from the sun. So those start to go haywire, produce pigment, and now we end up with solar lentigo, or for females, when we start to go through hormonal changes, we end up with melasma, all the things that we do not want. But we're able to treat all of that, thank goodness. Laxity in hooded lids, much deeper, right? That's in the deeper papillary dermis when we're younger, but definitely into the deeper reticular dermis as we age. And then, fine lines and wrinkles, same thing, in the deeper dermis. And then dry skin. So glycosaminoglycans are just as important to our skin as everything else, right? It gives our skin turgidity. It's when you don't water a house plant, what happens? And then when you water it, it has its turgidity. And that's what HA and any other glycosaminoglycan is doing. We can rejuvenate that, right? We can rejuvenate collagen, we can rejuvenate melanocytes that produce pigment, and we can rejuvenate those. And then lastly, jowls. Okay, jowling. If somebody had jowls and they came in and you just tighten their skin, are they truly going to be happy? Probably not. Reason being is there's still the fat issue, right? I don't know if the doctor hit on this, but our V-form, I'm skipping ahead, but our V-form has the ability to shrink the fat and tighten the skin at the same time. That's so important to be able to go deep into the fat, but also superficial in the dermis, to treat both issues of why we have jowling. Okay, so now how do we take an epidermis approach? And again, when you're doing combination, these treatments can be stacked on top of one another in the same day. Why? Because we're treating different cells, different energy, and different depths. So you can use RF with laser, with IPL, with microdermabrasion, pop some threads in. All of this can be done in the same day. Okay, so we have, I'm just going to open up this whole slide since this PowerPoint clicker is really slow. Okay, so all the issues that we have going on with the epidermis. The IPL is phenomenal to treat any type of pigment issues, but also vascular issues, right? IPL is known to want to attract any type of vascular chromophore and pigment chromophore. So we can knock that out with the IPL. The VFR, and I have a few additional slides on the VFR at the end because it is such a wow technology, but this can also treat melanocytes. It can also rejuvenate keratinocytes, and it can, of course, as the doctor was speaking about, resurface. So getting rid of those dead skin layers that we do not want to just give us that youthful appearance and get rid of the dull, dry skin. The dermis approach, now we can go deeper. We can go into the reticular or papillary dermis where our fibroblast cells are, and we can stimulate those for neocollagenesis, right? We can replace that old collagen with new and get skin tightening and also skin thickening. And then of course the V form, shrinking the fat and tightening the skin at the same time. Okay. Here's an idea of a combination approach. Again, taking this woman who may be a common patient of yours and things that we can do in the same day. So the ST uses radiofrequency, remodel collagen around the eyes. This handpiece can go right over the lips as well, so you can do a natural lip plump. This is amazing for the patients that are scared of lip filler. They're scared that it's gonna look fake. They want a natural appearance. V form, of course, to treat the jowls, shrink the fat, and tighten the skin at the same time. IPL for pigment, VFR for texture and tone. There's so much you can do because, again, you have all of those tools in your toolbox. And here's an example of just a couple treatments when you're doing a combination, right? When you're just using one technology, it's going to take longer to get there. When you start to combine these modalities, you get there so fast. Therefore, you have patients that are very, very happy very quickly. So we can see the improvement of the dull, dry skin, the pore size, the deeper lines, the texture, the jowling. Okay, and then I spoke about aging and a combination approach, but it's not just for aging. Think about acne. How do we get active acne under control without having to use medications? It's a combination approach. A lot of times you're going to want to do microdermabrasion to remove the dead skin cells because those dead skin cells, that's what's causing the problem in the first place. Then you can go in with IPL, which attacks the acne bacteria, the porphyrin, from within. And then additionally, I don't know if you guys know, but the IPL, you probably do if you already own an IPL, but the IPL at a certain wavelength targets the sebaceous gland and it regulates the sebum so the patient isn't as oily. By the way, I need that right now. I didn't realize how hot and humid it was here. And then I'm super oily naturally though. And then acne scars, of course, coming at it at a combination approach is gonna get you amazing results. Not only that, it's gonna get you amazing results quickly, right? So here's an idea of getting active acne under control fast, and then acne scar. Talking about acne scar, I want to just spend a little bit extra time on the VFR, the wow factor. Okay, so not all of your patients are gonna be suitable for a combination approach for multiple reasons, right? Financial, the time commitment, maybe downtime, whatever it may be. They can't afford it usually. Okay, they still want these results, so how are you gonna really help them? And it's having a technology that is able to combine and do a lot of things at the exact same time. So she spoke in depth about the technology, but I just wanna give you an example. Again, going back to that female that has pigment, texture, lines, laxity, and wants those results quickly. Again, what does the VFR do? The VFR is fractionated, ablative, and non-ablative, which means coagulation technology at the same time. So we go deep for tightening and lifting and collagen remodeling. At the same time, it's resurfacing. So it's getting rid of pigment, texture, fine lines and wrinkles, and laxity all in the same treatment. So those patients that can't afford that combination approach, this is the wow factor. And we have tons of before and after photos that we can show you to really make you like feel that result that people get. So as an example, here is 2 VFR treatments, vascular, pigment, texture. She also had really bad acne scarring. And then an example of 5 of the VFR, of course, a beautiful improvement of fine lines and wrinkles, the texture, the tone. And I mean, that woman, it's 10 years off of her face with one technology. It really is phenomenal. That's all I have. Thank you, guys. Do you have any questions on that?
Mary.
Yes, I didn't forget you. I'm so sorry. Yes.
Yeah, there was one before, but yeah. Fat shrinkage.
Yes.
Fat shrinkage. So what does that mean? Just losing fat from the cells or
Yeah.
losing cells?
Not losing cells. So with ours, and we wanted to be very careful when you're treating fat on the face because destruction, it's not going to be good. Which in the past, like RF monopolar technologies would accidentally destroy the fat cells, so you could have permanent divots in the skin. So ours is not apoptosis, it's lipolysis. So at a certain temperature, you're correct, keeping the cell intact, but taking the fluid out, making them small and healthy. Yeah. And then will you repeat your first question just so I make sure to answer it correctly?
Well, I had two questions.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. All right. So we're talking about the simultaneous or whatever heating and cooling with
Yes.
the fractionated radio frequency.
Yes.
And then there was that sort of sequencing of how it goes to create the depth of the RF.
Yes.
They were talking about closer electrodes further apart.
Yes.
I mean, I saw from one of your animations there that it was sort of, that was how I imagined it would be. It was sort of
Yeah.
going between these sort of things
Yeah.
rather than going right from the edges.
Exactly.
And so on.
So actually that slide, and it's funny, I never use that slide in any of my presentations anymore because it's slightly confusing. So you have 114 electrodes on that tip. And then all of them will fire no matter if you're shallow, medium, or deep, every single one. It's just how close are they together, right? So when you're shallow, the rows right next to one another are the positive and negative. When you're a little bit deeper, it just skips a row. So positive, negative, then positive, negative, then positive, negative, positive, negative. And then same with deep, it just skips 2 rows. So they all rows have the ability of being either positive or negative. So that's where it's, and they're not firing all at the same time. So it's more of a, sorry, I shouldn't have used a sizzle sound, that was bad. But you know what I mean. So that's how it's working with switching. They're all firing, yeah.
And the heating and cooling?
Okay, so do we have a tip, the VFR tip? Possibly, I can show you. The whole plate is a cooling plate. So the whole plate that's touching the skin is cold. You can turn that off, by the way, if you need more ablation. And then the electrodes are just sitting inside the cooling plate. So it's almost making it more fractionated in a way, right? So only the electrodes only the electrodes are creating the thermal injury to the tissue, and then the cooling plate surrounding every electrode. So it's keeping the skin intact, and it's super safe, but also for comfort.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And they were talking about heating, then creating more of the RF, like reducing the impedance to the RF.
Yes, so that's smart heat. So you can hold this while I'm talking. So all of the, I won't open it, but. Okay, perfect. Okay, so much easier, right? Are you calling me a child? I'm just kidding. So it kind of looks green. That whole thing is a cooling plate, and then those are the electrodes that are treating the skin, and then they're just in rows. So then these 2 large gold bars, those are also electrodes, and that's called smart heat. And it's very smart. So when that's turned on, it releases 1 joule of energy to the tissue. That's just warming the skin so you get less impedance, meaning less resistance, right? So when the tissue's warm, it wants to receive all of that RF. You have that on whenever you want to do deep coagulation. So lifting, tightening, or acne scars, right? Because acne scars are always like deep into the reticular dermis. You'd actually turn that off if you're just wanting to treat like pigment or texture because you want to stay superficial.
This is fairly large. Okay, so I asked Trevor this before, but I'll ask it to you as well.
Yeah.
Treating close around the eyes or eyelids, is that possible?
No, for sure. So we're able to, we just keep it, because here's the thing. You can ignore everything on that tip other than the tiny electrodes, because everything around it is just aiding in the treatment. So on the sides, that's where the vacuum is, and that's where it couples in the tissue. Make sure you're nice and flat, right? And it's, by the way, this is super safe. It is almost impossible to create an arc because it will have to sense that you're completely flush with all of the electrodes before it will release. So you can actually kind of get creative with it if you want to treat the very tip of the nose. If it's not happy, it will just go and you just reposition it a little bit and then hit it and then it will fire. So it's child-proof. That's it, it's child-proof. But yeah, you can ignore kind of everything around it, and just as long as those electrodes are here, it's fine. So we just have techniques. You just pull the brow up and make sure that the electrodes are on the skin. Yeah, you can treat the whole eyelid. Yep. And you just turn the smart heat off if you need to. If you want to get like really deep into the tissue here, you can pop the smart heat off for sure. Yeah.
And you can turn the vacuum off?
Yeah, sometimes I leave it on. Sometimes I leave it on just because it's a little bit more comfortable. It's, you know, they'll just feel a little bit of it kind of sucking this tissue, but I know a lot of our practices just pop the vacuum off. So it's up to you.
Yeah, we'll have to get that eyelid protocol.
That's good.
We'll talk to you about that.
Yeah, it's really good.
I have a question.
Yeah, of course.
In your region, how are you price point?
Very good question. So his question was, in the States or in our region, what's the price point on the VFR? It's going to range the very lowest, about 400 a treatment, and then it's maxing right around 1,000 per.
So that's for a face?
Well, yeah, for face, but I mean, same with like neck. Maybe the neck would be, 800 or 900 at the lowest end. Oh, and the great thing too is your consumable cost is so low. So that one tip is good for 600 pulses. So that's like 3 full necks or 2 full faces. It can be reused on the same patient. So your
that's around
the VFR is $80 US. And then that's 2 full faces. So your consumable is like $40 per face. It's very, very low. And then if you're treating, like, I don't know if you guys are into women's health, but it also treats labia. And it would be good for the entire series of labia treatments because it's a small area. So again, it's good ROI for sure.
So that's per treatment for the whole regimen?
Per treatment, and then you would times it by 3 or times it by 6 if they needed, a lot more. Maybe, the female that you saw up on the screen. Someone like me, I'm 42, so in 20 years I'd probably need 6. Right now it would be more like, 3 to 4 treatments. What? Done? Okay.
So, thank you, Kara, for that. Just going through all of that.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry, not to move you along a little bit. It's obviously getting on. Actually, one of the comments Kara did make was about, if your clients can or your patients can afford the treatment, otherwise you go for the VFR. I think what I'd like to do is actually get Tim Boone from TLC up, just to sort of talk about, ensuring that there are options for your clients to afford the treatment. So Tim's from finance, obviously been in the industry for about 18 years or working with TLC, and he's got a few thoughts. I'll leave that to Tim.
Hello. Many thanks for having me, Trevor. I really appreciate it. So after all that conversation, I suppose you come to the point of, how does this business make me money? And, every facet of, specific medical option gives you a variable to create an upsell to your client base. So just to give you a bit of a background, my name is Tim Boone. I'm the managing director of TLC. I've been working in and out in the medical space for the last 18 years. I realized back in 2004 there was a huge disconnect between patient and price point. And the disconnect is variable to the extent of the value of the medical space is the skill set that you have, but the patient doesn't know that. They only know what's predisposed based on their own income. So regardless if you're working in the non-aesthetic or the aesthetic space, and the non-surgical or a surgical space, the value add is how do you create the opportunity to increase sales? And I realized that there was a huge disconnect in that point. Average cost for a breast lift was $15,000 and people couldn't afford it. And then from the simplicity side of, how do people get into the medical space without having to break the balance as such? I've realized, there have been so many concepts out there. Interest-free and pay-as-you-go type products create a lower socio market. It's shown all the way through the years. That's why GE, created Care Credit and folded and collapsed. That's why OpenPay just created and collapsed 4 weeks ago. The fundamental thing is that people want lifestyle as well. So I created TLC on the back end of my first company, but I wanted to create the fairest option available to patient. So as opposed to my first business model, I was backed with just ANZ Bank. I'm now backed by 8 banks. And I wanted to create a platform so that every single patient had the variable opportunity to get it. It wasn't I wasn't kind of discriminating their background opportunity. It was more so, how does that patient come into that clinic and enact the service? If someone's casually employed, do they get ridiculed? No. If someone's on Centrelink, do they get ridiculed? No. But do they get the opportunity to get the right treatment at the right time? And I think that's really important these days. So when you look at the opportunities within the clinic space, especially let's have a look at the non-surgical space. The issue that I found in the last 2 decades is that 99% of clinics and 99% of clinic managers run the business on incremental payments. The client comes in, you try and sell them a product, they possibly buy this, and then they leave. And then you've got to pay for your staff to then follow up with the client and then get the client back in. So the irony is that when you introduce a product such as this into your suite, encapsulate it with everything else that you do. So it's not just, this is what I want you to do. It's, this is what I want you to do on top of the other things that I'm providing in your service. And then create package opportunities so that you create that sticky effect. And I think that's the thing lacking. The major laser lounge, LCA type business models that created this incremental model in the Westfield, has detracted now because people don't want to go back to Westfields. They want to go back to clinic. They want to get service. They want to get the feeling they're getting a result with someone. But as you know, every single result in the non-aesthetic space takes time. It's not result 1, it's not result 2. It's usually 3, 4, maybe 5th visit where they get the best result. And how do you get the client to come back in to enact that service? So I've always suggested creating package opportunities where instead of it being $3,000, it costs the patient $35 a week. The difference is that I don't create what I call secondary debt options. So once the patient pays it off, and they have no early payout fees to do so, they can't then go out and buy a fridge like they can with interest-free options. The other thing is that we want them to be able to get the best result out of your opportunity. I have seen so many clinics over the years try and catch that client through that process and fail so many times, where if you create that opportunity by saying, I want to make my services accessible with alternate options, you will create growth. Now, like the difference between what I do compared to interest-free companies is that, number one, my service is free. It doesn't cost your business anything. Number two, I follow APRA guidelines. I fund directly to the patient. So the patient receives the funds, they then enact the service with you. A lot of businesses don't realize under the Linked Credit Act, if you get paid directly, you're liable for the debt as well. So if something happens to that specific client, they can come after you for that. So you've got to be very, very careful about how you work in that space. That's the sole reason why interest-free companies pay direct to you. So $1,000 goes into your account, and then $100 gets pulled out of your account. That's their policy structure. They want to monopolize that because you are the one that's received the funds on behalf of the client, so you're providing the service. Where I believe the funds go to the patient, and the patient enacts the service. And as such, then it creates no liability back on you, but it means you can maximize everything you do within the suite of products that you have. And I've, my struggle with businesses over the last 18 years is if you don't let people know what's available, how are you ever going to improve your service? If you don't talk to them about how they can benefit from the services that you give them, not just like facial, and it's all about packaging it up so that you maximize that potential. But also, if you've got other machines in your clinic, utilize that and then upsell them with a product like this so that they can maximize the opportunity. But I'm here all night. Please chew my ear about what you're here to do, how you're looking at improving your services. Look, Trevor, thank you so much for having me tonight.
So one more thing before we go, and it's usually one of the big questions is, and following that, which works out quite well, is how much does it cost? I mean, everyone sort of likes to ask those sort of questions. So in your pack, there is actually an offer. We are launching, so there is a bit of an offer associated at the moment. As we talked about, or you're introduced to, there's a V10 series, V20, V30. What we're doing is just a free upgrade. So if you look at a V10, we'll provide a V20. It just gives you greater options in amongst that. The example I'll sort of say is that the range of pricing for the very basic unit, given that the current offering that we've got on, which is available for a short term, but it's ranging from around about the 50,000 plus GST mark up to a fully packed system currently on that offer for around about 140,000 plus GST. And I mean, at 140,000 with all of that, it really is a situation where you're covering pretty well your entire aesthetic device requirements. So, and as Tim might indicate there as well, that's really only one client per week, really, if you put them onto a package structure, and you'll be able to easily cover all of those costs in there. So again, thank you all for bearing with us. As I said, we're unfortunate that we don't have a system here to show you. We do have some handpieces there, so if you want to get a bit of an idea of how they all look or feel. Kara's certainly, you're able to have a bit of a chat with the team before you head off. You certainly don't have to leave. Obviously, I know there's a few of you with a bit of distance to go, but thank you all again for your time, and I know it's valuable, but we really appreciate you coming along. Thank you.